very entertaining evening of golf here from the Sentry Tournament of Champions. Ryan Burt, 2 PGA Tour winners. Brandel Chambly, Nota Begay. Nota, I start with you. Boy, those guys had to overcome a lot out there at times. It was really coming down.
Well, it was really coming down. It was intermittent. You had these little squalls coming down on one part of the golf course, and then they would go to another part of the golf course, and there wasn't much going on. And so it was just a matter of players just dealing with all of the ups and downs and the umbrellas and the wind and trying to just make decisions on the fly. You know, what's going to happen with this particular lie? Is the ball going to jump forward? Am I going to be able to get any spin on it? Is the wind going to hold it up? How much do I count to take off or add because of the rain or because of the wind? And so all of these calculations, it's not a surprise, Brandel, that we're seeing guys on the top of the leaderboard that have some of the best attitudes in the professional game.
I've said for a long time that when I go out and watch players up close, when I watch on TV, the game is almost unrecognizable to me how much better players are now versus 20 years ago when I was playing. It just hit it so much further. They're just so much better at dealing with inconveniences like this. Mother Nature threw every single thing she could at these players. This is an incredibly difficult golf course because of the elevation changes and the lies you get. And you add into the fact that it was blowing 30, 40 miles an hour and raining. You just watching Patrick Reed shoot 66, watching Xander Schauffele shoot 68 like it's a walk in the park. It is just mind-boggling great golf that we were watching today. The scores may not be indicative of that. They may not look at that and think these guys are amazing. But that was an incredible day of golf.
Todd Lewis with more on Patrick Reed.
Patrick, this is the first time we've seen you compete since the President's Cup. And I remember you and I talking at Royal Melbourne. You said it was a tough week for you coming off what happened at the Hero World Challenge. You've had some time now to spend some time with your family, reflect a bit. What do you digest of those weeks in Australia and the Bahamas now?
I think the biggest thing is just absolutely enjoy going to battle, especially with my team, and fight for my country and play for the red, white, and blue. And, especially with those guys going down there and for the captain to believe in me as well as, the team to believe in me to, one, be a pick, but also to go out and go out early to earn a point meant a lot. And, the fans are hostile, which you would expect, especially going behind enemy lines. But at the same time, would love the game of golf, would never have missed it. And, respect the game of golf, and anytime you can go out and play for your country and play for others rather than yourself, it means a lot, especially to me. So, it was just fun to go out and play, and glad to be back playing golf and starting the year off hopefully correct.
Congratulations on the day. We'll see you tomorrow. Couple of points in regards to Patrick Reed. He is a field player, and because the lies here are so uneven, because the conditions are sometimes drastic as they were today, it is a field player's golf course, so this course fits into his mode. That's why he's won here before. Secondly, you heard him talk about what happened at the Hero World Challenge and the President's Cup. It was a turbulent time for him, and some could argue it was self-inflicted, but he is trying to move past that. I can tell you, Ryan, that I watched him all week. He has signed a lot of autographs, taken selfies, tried to be a true professional. He's hoping to move past that, and maybe winning will help improve his image as he goes forward. Let's go back to you in the studio.
Yesterday he makes triple at number 7, as Todd was just asking him the question about. What was impressive was the way he described it. He said it was a decent swing that found the rough, that it was a fluke bunker shot. In other words, he's not beating himself up. And then he goes to the next tee and hits a great shot and makes birdie. And obviously strings 4 birdies together on the back 9 and then shoots 66 and is back in it today. When you start talking about him dealing with adversity, these are existential issues that we're talking about, but as it relates to the golf course, he's been dealing with adversity his entire career, because in his career, he has missed more fairways and more greens than just about any player that I can think of. This is going back to the beginning of his career. The best he's ever been in driving accuracy is 131st. The best he's ever been in greens and regulation is 112th. And trust me, strokes gained off of the tee, strokes gained approach, not a whole lot better. So you look at those numbers and you think, this guy has won 7 times, he won a major championship? How in the world does he do it? Well, he does it by dealing with adversity, keeping a good attitude, not paying attention to the odd miss who are there, and a brilliant short game. Strokes gained putting, blowing the field away this week in both instances here. Total distance of putts made, strokes gained putting. This, just like his ball striking stats, is nothing new for him, and neither is dealing with adversity.
Well, Todd said that certainly he's trying to extend himself to the fans and try to redo his image again, but this is part of his image, and he does seem to embrace it. If you think back to Glenn Eagles, when really he burst on the scene as Captain America, it was his raw shushing the crowd in Scotland. He didn't have to do the shoveling motion at the President's Cup to the Australian crowd. I mean, he almost, notice, seems to embrace this villain role.
Yeah, I mean, he really takes on the me against the world type of mentality. And, you know, with regard to the altercation, I talked with his caddy and the spectator, and I think it was appropriate that Kessler was asked not to come back on Sunday. But I've talked to a lot of tenured caddies on the PGA Tour, and every single one of them said they would have done the same thing. It's their job to get in between a spectator and a player if they feel their player's in danger, and that's absolutely what Kessler felt like was happening. So I thought that was an appropriate move in that regard. But looking at just how he's able to go about his business in the face of controversy, in the face of immense pressure, which we've seen him do so very well in the Ryder Cup, is a skill, and it's not a skill you can teach, Brandel. It's just sort of almost an instinctive thing for him to, when he feels like there's something up against him or pushing up against him, he's not going to give any ground. He's going to push back.
Yeah, I think I used the phrase at the President's Cup that he seems like he's quarantined from reality. The reality of the bad shots doesn't seem to bother him. He bounces back. He deals with the adversity. Even Todd's question, which implicit in the question was, how have you dealt with the fallout from the Bahamas? He wrapped himself in the flag rather than deal with the implied question. Now, strategically, that's a pretty good move. I'm not sure anybody's buying it, but in order to play and keep your equilibrium and play good golf, I've always said athletes sort of have to lie to themselves. They have to protect their talent any way they can, and it is working for him.
Yeah, it really has.
From a golf standpoint, not from a PR standpoint.
The only time it didn't was following the Ryder Cup in Paris, where he really
Good point.
Came out looking bad, and there wasn't a whole lot of support coming Patrick Reed's way. He played his worst golf of his career through the first portion of 2019. It got really bad at points where he tried different teachers and tried to find a way out of this dark hole. Ultimately, he did, winning again in the FedEx Cup playoffs, getting a captain's pick onto the President's Cup team. So it eventually worked out. But you'd be curious, it did show signs the last time around coming out of Paris that it got to him a bit.
It did, and that's a good point. It really is. But in general, if you look at and think about the chaos that surrounds him, this dysfunctional drama that seems to follow him everywhere he goes, I don't know anybody that wouldn't shoot 80 under these circumstances. Yeah. It's amazing that he's
seen a
able
lot
to
of good players crumble under less.
Yes.
And then you look at the statistics of driving accuracy in greens and regulation, and you think, well, there's no way he's breaking 80. But the one thing that has traveled and always has is the short game and the putting, and that, my friends, is why he's playing so well again this week.
And the belief, again, going back and listen to that interview where he said he makes triple. He goes, you know what? I really hit a decent drive that missed the fairway. And then I hit a fluke bunker shot. He didn't say it was a fluke that he bladed it over. I think those are important things to learn as an athlete. If you're out there and you're thinking about playing the tour, that is really how you have to think.
Phil made a living doing that.
He darn sure did. There are a lot of similarities between the way they play. Phil is another level.
Right.
But bad shots didn't bother Phil.
Not a bit, not a bit. So Patrick Reed in great position heading into the weekend. He's won this event before.